Take a look at the products we use every day, from our smartphones to our computers. Notice how one thing stands out, or maybe it doesn't. Notice those neutral, minimalistic, timeless hues. But why? Why suddenly are companies like Google, Apple, Samsung, and the likes leaning towards minimalistic, neutral shades rather than bold, vibrant hues? Well, what if I told you those choices aren't locked in consumer electronics? What if I told you this shift is like a global pandemic? A move towards minimalism isn't just a design trend, but it's part of a much larger movement. One that uncovers more than color psychology, one that explains subtle, timeless, and minimalism. But before we get into detailing why companies prefer these neutral tones, let's take a quick look at what color actually is. In basic sense, color is how our brain intercepts light bouncing off objects. But there's something more fundamental at play. You see, when Sir Isaac Newton first split light into the spectrum using a prism, it revealed that color is not exactly a property of objects themselves, but it's a product of how light interacts with the world around us. By his own words, Sir Newton states that the rays are not colored. In essence, color only exists in our minds based on how light interacts with the world around us. Perhaps color perception was not only taken as a pigment, but it did then so as today carry a feeling. Do you know that feeling when an artist comes up with a brand new song which you can't get your mind off listening? Well, your brain responds by releasing dopamine, which then makes you put the song on repeat over and over and over again to sort of rejuvenate that same dopamine. But as time moves on, you sort of lose interest in that song. The song becomes blunt, out of style. And so, you hop onto the next one for that same dopamine. Basically, familiarity breeds content. And as time progressed from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s, something familiar happened with color. As it became more and more accessible, it sort of lost its sense of novelty and excitement. And to reflect this shift within the tech space, Apple, because who else, unveiled the first iPod, which was at that time a eureka moment for conventional MP3 players. But remember how Steve Jobs pitched its minimalistic profile?
It's ultra portable.
Well, take also Nokia with the 3310, rugged yet portable, the PlayStation 2 Slim from Sony, the 2005 Xbox 360, and the Prius from Toyota. Heck, even IKEA was now selling state-of-the-art furniture. If you could draw one decisive line across these products, is their simplicity and minimalism. It was like you found another song from a said artist that gave you the same feeling of satisfaction and made you put it on repeat for like every single time. And not to lie, I think this shift was like for the better, and I should admit I'm also a fan of minimalism. But we can't go full black and white because color, even in its sort of form, still play a critical role in product design. I mean, remember the special edition OnePlus 6 that everyone was hyped about? Not because of its insane hardware specs or anything like that, but because of its signature red color. And I'm not joking because nearly every company up to this point is guilty of using color to justify their bump in price. So let's take a look at colored gadgets in a desaturated world because I think that is more interesting. So I think to understand what just happened with OnePlus 6, I think we should take a look at how color is coded on a smartphone because I think this process is largely overshadowed by our perception of color. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially, any smartphone manufacturer uses one of the following processes to code color, which is either anodization, PVD, spray painting, or electroplating. And I think finishes like matte or glossy are far more interesting processes, but let's hold our horses first in color. So, right from the beginning, companies want to offer products with as little iterations from one another, mainly to make consumer choices a lot narrower and easier, which is in turn good for the sales. I mean, take for example smartphones, but it might as well be true for any given sample space. So, a company will release either a white, a black, or two to three more color hues, not because they ran out of choice, but that's also a point. Fundamentally, they want to give you less iteration between the products to sort of maintain their cohesive brand identity and even at some point to communicate value. And up to this point, the most effective way of communicating value is through color. I mean, go Google some premium color palettes. Chances are you'll find minimalistic shades for most parts. But let's be clear, black, white, gray, and what? Blue? Maybe blue is cool, but to most people, those options are exactly what they are, non-offensive and neutral. But let's say you want a color wave outside the default options. Maybe you want a red iPhone, who knows? Chances are you might go for third-party options like a case or a skin. Or if you have the extra cash, just go for the first option, product red special edition iPhone, and it's a win-win. First, I want to point out that I don't think we're at the peak smartphone yet, but with the current technology, it sort of gave us an idea of what a normal slab phone should look like. But there still are yearly releases of this device, which, to be honest, seems like a bezel race at this point. I mean, how can you justify the previous model from the new one? I think separate is the word there. How can you separate the previous model from the new one? With the design, well, that's not changing anytime soon. How about the specs? Well, those are incremental and can only be tested when one gets the product. Okay, I feel you. Now, how about the cameras? Well, the array will do the trick, and that's not changing significantly lately. Well, maybe the color then. You
What?
know, you know what? Let's try that. Let's try that. And I think brands have gotten pretty good with this. I mean, how many times have you scrolled on your feed without hearing someone talk about the new ultramarine color on the new iPhones? Or how about that blog that reads like how Apple printers finally have ink again? It's classic stuff and pure psychology. Or remember the product red iPhones? How reviewers were saying they are the most sexy looking iPhones yet? Classic PR stuff. And to think all that is pure color manipulation and psychology cracks me up every time. And what does Apple say? Well, you can get the red one and be contributing a portion of that to fight against AIDS. Technically true, but the red one, pure psychology. Because companies know that people can go the lengths and height in the name of customization just to stand out. But aside from that crazy psychology on color, it seems that not all places have a color desaturation crisis. I mean, when I walk up the streets of my town, they seem pretty colorful to me. Kinda. You see, not only are the products losing color, but the companies too. I mean, we are seeing massive companies who spend a fortune on rebranding to monochromatic or abstract logos, mainly in the name of modernization and logo flexibility, but that is only seen in the Western world. In fact, the signature colors of companies is still pretty much visible in places like Africa and the East Asian countries where in busy streets, companies like Vivo, Oppo, or Xiaomi use color to set themselves apart. I mean, try putting your phone in grayscale and try to find Instagram or WhatsApp. It'll seem odd because you're used to seeing color. So chances are companies will use this psychology to sort of boost sales of their products in different regions. And if they can make a product that can pretty much appeal to nearly every social bracket, they'll do exactly that. And that's why I love colored tech gadgets as much as I hate them. Because at the end of the day, color is not just a pigment, it is psychology, it is science, it is art, it is fun, and it is so much more. And that's why smart people build companies like Pantone, which seem like they own color in the manufacturing process, but in actual sense, what color is can only be explained by you. The way you view the world around you, the way you perceive things in existence, that's what color means. Personally, when I look around and see subtle colors, I kinda want it to stay because I prefer the feeling it carries. I think we understand this as designers, entrepreneurs, and artists, or people who want to make the world a better place. We too will have a definition on what color is. And when it's 10 years later, maybe we'll have a feeling that we had 10 years ago on color. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, the only limit is your imagination. Peace.